who's joining us from Riga in Latvia. Glenn, thank you very much for being here. I'd like to first discuss the strikes and the attacks on the energy infrastructure in Ukraine that we've seen from Russia. How pivotal is this for Russia to sort of get that foothold and continue their offensive? As we've seen, 20% of Ukraine approximately now controlled by Russia, and taking out the energy infrastructure, of course, has wider reaching impacts.
Yeah, it does. And I think we need to look at this now in the wider context, because the Trump actions in the last couple of weeks have made the whole thing a complete game changer. And that now it's quite clear to Putin that Ukraine has no support from Trump, and Trump has just pulled, as you know, he had pulled out the intelligence support, pulled away weapons support, and is even apparently talking about taking back the US Patriot missiles from inside Ukraine back over the border. I mean, what we're seeing is no longer a war of just Russia versus Ukraine. It's now turning very much into a war of two sides, with, unfortunately or amazingly, the United States on the side of Russia. So Russia's going to keep going. I mean, it has absolutely no reason to stop now. We know that the Europeans are having their meetings, and the latest plan calls for £800 billion to be spent on defence. But you can't spend £800 billion in 5 minutes, and some of that will take 7, 8, 9 years to deal with, when in fact the problem for Ukraine at the moment is literally it needs drones on the front line today, and that means money, and that means support. So there's got to be some different thinking from everybody. If we don't want Ukraine to go backwards any further, then people need to start thinking much quicker and much more focused on supporting Ukraine than they have done so far.
Yes, Glenn, just to bring in some news that we've received in the last few minutes, Trump has spoken following the overnight assaults that we've seen from Russia, and he says he is considering fresh sanctions and tariffs on Russia. We know, of course, that the US delegation is set to meet Ukrainian officials in Saudi Arabia next week. So, Glenn, I ask you this question. Do you think the tide may be turning, and tide could turn, given the fact that Trump seems willing now to communicate with Ukraine, where a week ago, after their clash in the White House, it seemed that truly had truly broken down?
Well, it's interesting, because there really wasn't a relationship before anyway, because Trump doesn't do relationships. He does power. So Zelensky was at a loss from the beginning with this whole thing, and what Trump has been doing is bullying Ukraine to give in and to make a ceasefire, and he knows full well that sanctions and other things will take time and are a very, very, very weak method of trying to actually stop a war. So I think that we've got two sides to this. One side is Trump bullying Zelensky and trying to make things happen straight away from Zelensky, and on the other side, giving Russia things at the same time as he's pulling things away from Russia. I don't think the tide has turned. I think we've still got a long way to go with this, because nothing at the moment is there that will stop Russia.
Yes, where the US has, of course, withdrawn support to Ukraine, one country that continues to show support, a European country in the form of France. Emmanuel Macron has been outspoken in support for Ukraine. European leaders meeting on a regular basis at the moment. And we also know that French-built Mirage jets were used last night to try and stop the large Russian offensive and large Russian strikes that took place. How important do you think it is that these European nations and these European leaders stick by Ukraine during this tumultuous time?
I can't place enough emphasis on it. It is about world peace. It's as strong as that. And if Europe doesn't step up, and doesn't actually support the whole Ukraine thing properly, then we can see a real slide backwards into war in other areas. Especially if US does not support Ukraine properly, then other autocratic leaders will believe that they have nothing to fear, especially China and others. So I think that there is a need now for Europe to be really, really strong and quick in the coming weeks to show that they are 100% behind Ukraine, not only in words, but actually in deed.
Glenn, Grant, thank you very much for your insights.